So you stole my first line. Welcome back, everyone. I'm glad to be sitting up here with somebody else next to me. It's tremendous. I will let Mike go first, and then, I'll take it from there.
Hello, everyone. Apologies for getting over a cold. Got a little laryngitis, so bear with me a little bit. I'm happy to answer any questions after. I'll jump right into kind of where we are from a roster build for 2025. Obviously, with the recent move, we have even more flexibility than we had a couple months ago. We have offers. We've extended offers to players. We have not closed any deals on a DP or under 22 initiative yet. That is the objective still for this window. Our window, as you know, doesn't even open until the end of the month. So we want to make sure that we do our due diligence and not only extend offers, but when we close deals, make sure that we're bringing in the right player in the right position at the right age, that all the buckets are checked off. Because the way we're looking at it is DP players and under 22 initiative players are not easy to sign, but it also will impact the team for the next couple of years, right? So we want to make sure we get it right, or as close to as right as we can. Having said all of that, we still, because of the even greater flexibility we have now, we have not decided. Some of it will depend on who we sign, whether we're going to go with the 3-and-3 model, the 2-and-4 model. But the fact that we have that flexibility is, we feel, an incredible bonus, if you will, for us, because a lot of clubs don't have that flexibility that we have right now. And lastly, he just passed, so I will say that we have signed MLS free agent Mason Toye. He's been added to the roster, so he just passed his physical right now. So we're excited to add another forward to our forward, to the current forwards that we have. We're excited about that for a lot of reasons: age, experience, domestic player. Peter and I both spoke with him. He's excited to be here. We're excited to have him, and that's the final piece. We want to sign, whether it's free agents, college drafted players, DP under 22 initiative players. We want players that want to be here. And Mason's hungry and eager to join us, so we're happy we were able to close that deal to bring him here. We will have additional signings to announce. I just can't give you an exact time frame on when that will happen, but we are working diligently to add more players to the roster.
So I just would make an additional comment and maybe emphasize the fact that with the recent move and some other things that we've done prior to this, that we have really given ourselves an incredible amount of flexibility and maybe also accelerated our plan much faster than we probably were going to be able to. We still think that the build that we're doing is probably going to be over still from here forward. It's probably over the next 15 months, but we'll be able to make some significant improvements much faster than we actually anticipated based on some recent moves in that regard. The other thing I'd like to do is take this opportunity for just a moment, and that is, I just, this past year, I finished my 16th year of coaching this club, and two guys started with me at that time, and that was Kerry Zavagnin and Zoran Savic. And Z decided to sort of hang it up. He's been doing it for a long time. He's getting a little older. He wouldn't like me saying that, but he just felt that he's put his time in, and it was time to kind of be done. He was tapped out and wanted to go on to something else. And I'll say that I could not be with two better people over all those years. And I'm still with Kerry. So speaking of Z, one of my best friends, tremendous guy, tremendous knowledge about the game. I can't tell you how appreciative I was for those 16 years. Great memories, a lot of really, really good moments during that time. And I mean, especially on the field, as well off the field, but on the field, and that's what we're here for to begin with. I can't thank him enough for his commitment to the club, his commitment to the group, his undying loyalty to everything that we did. It was tremendous. We're going to miss him. I don't know if he realizes how much we're going to miss him in so many ways, whether it just be the personal aspect or also just what he did on a regular basis for the club. Hard to find people like him. And so he will be missed, but the good thing is he's staying in Kansas City, and he'll be here and he'll be at games and get a chance to see him. But just want to take the opportunity to thank him. So with that, happy to answer either of us answer any questions you might have.
We do have a lot of questions. Since you just mentioned Z, do you have plans to replace him or anybody in mind, or is that close?
It's a lot like the players. As I said, Z's been here 16 years. There isn't this huge rush right now to just jump into something right away. For sure, I have a very strong idea of what the criteria is going to be from a qualifications perspective for that person. And I don't mean pro license or A license. I mean more of where that person's strengths will be. Understand that also someone that fits into the personality of the group. Never have I once ever wanted, nor have we ever had guys in the staff, especially on the coaching staff, that are yes men, because it's important that when we go behind closed doors that we're constantly challenging all the ideas so that we get to the best decision. So it's more of making sure that the person has the qualities that we're looking for, the criteria. And we're going to take our time. What I will tell you is the number of applications, because we posted the job half an hour after we announced that Z was out. The number of applications we have is daunting. And we're going to be very meticulous in how, as we already are going through them, but we have still a lot to go through. And we're also going to go through the process to make sure, because we don't know what we don't know. And that was the whole reason for making sure that we ran a process, and we will do that. Whether that's going to happen in a week or 2 months, honestly, I really, really, truly don't know. And I do not have, or we do not have a person of mind at the moment.
Going to the transfer of Polito, can you talk about how that started? Was that something he initiated or something you guys wanted to move just to open up space? Or can you talk about that?
You want me to take it? Obviously, Polito was here during, Mike wasn't here when it first started. In the midst of his deal, he changed agents. I knew both of them. I had a discussion with him after the season, not too long, week or two, and just said, he asked me some questions, and I also then answered him, and then one of my responses was that, of course, we'd be open to anything in regards to movement, but understand there are going to be, for sure, very specific stipulations regarding the deal. And so that there would be a transfer. We weren't going to obviously participate in anything where there would be any monies paid going out to the player. We were absolutely not going to do that. So thus the idea of more so that there would be a transfer as well associated to it. And so I would say that it's probably the discussions have probably been in the beginning stages of this, probably over like 7 weeks, but in the first 4 weeks, very minimal. And then it started to escalate because I think most of you know that the Mexican market, when it's on fire, is right now. This is their heaviest time in building teams, because it's between the Apertura and the Clausura, and either you're trying to win it or you're trying to stay above. And so there's a lot of movement of players, and so thus the reason for it happening now.
Looking back, was it still the right move to sign him back in 2023 to a new contract?
Well, if you know what you know now in regards to injury, you would say no, right? Because from that perspective. But in regards to quality of player and what we identified to start off with and how he started, Gadi Kinda started at that time and it went into COVID, I mean, I wish I had that crystal ball. But yes, quality of player. He was a leading goal scorer in Mexico when we got him. So I don't know how else you choose a player with better statistics and all the other things. And still, quality-wise, he had it. But this changes things for us in a different way. And this happens with all players. I've had this same conversation since probably 2009, when I first came on in 2007 as the sporting director. And that is, fans love players that are in the club, right? And they want them to stay, But at some point they're going to leave because they're going to age out or something's going to happen. And sometimes it could also be a business decision, and that's what this became at the end of the day. And it's the best thing for everybody.
Knowing that this took place over a short period of time, Mike, just how much did that give you like much more clear room to make moves? And it was maybe a little unexpected that it happened when it did.
Yeah, the way I would answer that is that the last time we spoke, I really focused on the 10 and the winger, and until obviously this deal and this transaction occurred, that is still the focus, but now the 9's in play as well, right? So it's one of the main reasons that immediately thereafter we pursued Mason, right? Because we needed another forward for sure. But even with the addition of Mason, now the focus in terms of international players are the 10, the winger, and certainly another 9 as well, right? So it just so happens to be that those are the hardest players to sign on the planet. So, but we will get there. And again, from my perspective and from my position where I sit, I've said this to you before, I love flexibility. And I don't want to say the easy part, but you have to get to a place where you have the flexibility to be able to make moves, and now the challenge is to bring in the right players. So we'll be looking still at all those positions.
And let me add one thing to that as well, is that, a coach that I played for here, he had a great line. He always used to say that one man's absence is another man's opportunity. And we have, adding Mason, we have some guys in the team that have the ability to become that player and be that lead person on our front line. It's up to them. And if they don't see that, then they shouldn't be here, right? But also you got to work for that and you got to be consistent at it. But they have the ability and the qualities to become that person. The roster is a living, breathing document when you look at it on paper, and you're constantly always trying to get better. But a lot of times you're shying away from certain positions in trying to get better there when somebody's really at their best. And we got to make sure that the guys that we have, we as a staff have to make sure that we're helping them and getting them there. But at the same time, they have to take that responsibility, because about 95% of that responsibility is theirs. If they do their part, then all of a sudden focus can be to other positions or other situations that we have to rectify.
Early in the preseason, you guys said there's going to be an injection of youth into this team, and you signed 2 16-year-olds and a 19-year-old. So, Mike, this is more for you. What did you see the state of the academy when you came in? Are you happy with the way things are there?
Yeah, I'm very happy that we were able to sign 3 homegrown players this offseason entering into this year. And this, I'll give you my kind of perspective on academy in general. This academy players, these are the first 3 homegrown players that we've signed since 21, I believe. It's easy to sign homegrown players. We can sign 10 homegrown players if we want. And a lot of clubs have different approaches to it. My personal kind of outlook and philosophy on signing homegrown players is I only like signing or only want to sign homegrown players who I and we feel that eventually at one day can be significant contributors to the first team. That's why we sign players. I can sign 10 guys, but I wouldn't want to sign any homegrown player if we didn't really feel that at some point they can be impactful for the first team. That doesn't mean that every homegrown player I've ever been associated with, that I've ever signed, has been that, but I don't want to sign homegrown players just to sign homegrown players. And we feel with Jack, with Ian, and with Jacob, they're 3 players that have a high ceiling, have a high potential, and are we expecting them to be running the show in 2025? It's unfair to them, right? But we feel that they have the potential to make impactful contributions to the first team, and that's why we signed those guys. So we're very bullish on them, and frankly, I'm bullish on the academy in general. To hopefully we can produce more players that we want to sign to first team contracts.
So as far as going under 22 model, going with the DP model,
Yep.
Are you pretty excited about what you've looked at and who's maybe even come to you for those kind of slots?
Yes. I mean, the short answer is yes. I'll be more excited when we add the players officially. Again, from my perspective, I love the fact that we're not locked into one model or the other, that we actually have the flexibility and the ability to go one route or the other, because it just gives us more players that we can look at And, you know, if we had 3 DPs right now and only one under 22, then you're jammed in, you're locked into what you can look. But we have the ability to add, you know, 3 DPs, 2 DPs, you know. So having that, it gives us a wider net of players to look at to fill those roles. And that's exciting for me.
So, Mike, you were just talking about designated players and adding them. In the past, Peter's often talked about signing players in the winter. He prefers them in the winter. Do you have any sort of philosophical difference about maybe making summer designated player signings?
I can't say for sure that all of our positions will be filled this winter. I know Peter, and I think I've touched upon it before. I mean, this is a winter, summer, next winter. I don't want to call it a rebuild, but that's where the opportunity lies for us. In a perfect world, of course, I would rather have all the positions filled tomorrow, because it'll accelerate and hopefully make our team better sooner. But having said that, I'm not going to be backed into a corner like we have to do something now. It's more important to get it right than to just rush and sign a player because it checks off a box, or so we won't operate like that. I won't operate like that. It is important to try to get the right guy, and yes, for sure, we would rather do it sooner rather than later. But we still need a little bit of time to get these deals done.
And then, Peter, so for the last quite a few seasons, you guys play a possession 4-3-3 system. Last year, maybe injuries forced you into the 4-2-3-1, whatever the case may be. Do you see your identity changing going into this season in how you want the team to play?
Not this past season, but the year before, when after the first 10 games we got majority of our guys back. We went on probably the best run of any team in MLS from that point on. And we were playing a 4-3-3. Formation is really not, it's not all that it's made out to be. What is the intensity, the execution of the players inside the white lines on game days. And so if I would be critical of something last season, or maybe it's two things, I would say you had a lot of guys underperform and also at different times. So as opposed to like everybody doing it at one time and you have a 4-game stretch that's bad, you just had different guys doing it at different times, and our contributions at those times were poor. And I also think that resulted in lack of confidence and then also intensity of play. And if there's one thing that has to be completely different with this group is that intensity, desire, and execution on game night. And that is something that it will be, I think, much different. In regards to the formation, like I said, it's funny. I mean, look at the new coach of Man United when he came in. When he was in Portugal, he came in, he said, this is the way I play, this is what it is what I believe in, and this is what I'm going to do. And that's what he's done. And that's what he's going to do, because that's what he sees is an effective way to be successful. And I think that you can look around the league. I would say you're either playing 3 in the back or you're playing a 4-3-3. That's what almost everybody does, or a 4-2-3-1. And it's some semblance of that. But at the end of the day, it has to do with the intensity, the aggressiveness, the execution of the players within the game.
And then kind of the switch of, I know I'm hung up on formations, is a single pivot versus a double pivot. And Nemanja seems very suited for the single, and then a lot of the other guys on the roster seem maybe more suited for a double pivot. Do you envision a world where maybe you move back and forth between those, or do you want to kind of go back to the way you've played in the past with a single? I would
say that you could also see us playing 3 in the back. I mean, look, give you an example. When Graham Zusi was here, and I'm using Graham because he was basically a 10 when he first started here. Then he was a winger, and then he was an outside back. And the thing that you could do with Graham is that before all these teams started to go 3 in the back, that's what we used to do. We used to come out with 3 in the back, and the opposite side, outside back, would be high up the field, and our winger would be inside, and we'd just get an extra guy on the front line. That's because of the qualities of Graham. So, like I said, we could still be a team that plays three coming out of the back. You could push one of your midfield or one of your outside backs half the field or into the midfield. It really comes down to the quality of the players. Some of that also is going to it will dictate itself with some of the different players that we're looking to bring in as well, because a lot of them will be in attacking positions, and so with that being said, they're also going to help shape how we play. And again, as I said, formation, it might start out as a 4-3-3, but it could wind up being a 3-4-3. It could be, three in the back, two in the midfield, right? And then one in front of that, and then another, so it can shape based on the qualities of the players. And that's what's really going to come down. I will say this in the beginning, probably be a 4-3-3, and then we'll work on some aspects of that. And as hopefully we get some players in, that'll give us more flexibility within the team.
And then Johnny Russell's left, so he was your most recent team captain. You'll have to name a new captain. What are you looking for going into preseason, or do you already have your mind made up?
I do not. I do not have my mind made up, and I think what you can't do is you can't force leadership upon someone. I think you either have it or you don't. You either, it always sounds better if you're doing a different language, but you either have the cojones or you don't, like to be in somebody's face. You either have it or you don't, and so look to see if we have somebody that steps up into that position or somebody that comes in, because I'm not also against. Look, at the end of the day, if you have them, you don't need to be here for 10 years to then display them. You can come in and be on the first day. You can show it, and so it's really going to play itself out over the course of preseason.
That was actually my first question, Peter. But my second one is, with this youthful exuberance you've got going on with this club now, with a lot of the faces that we've grown to know and love here, how excited are you to kind of renew some things when you get training, because you have a match in basically a month?
I think when you and it's not something that we're familiar here at this club, but when you don't go to the playoffs like we did this past year, one of the things that come here is it goes with it, and that is you have more time to reevaluate everything you do. We do that all the time, but sometimes you just don't have as much time, and we did this year, which I think was very healthy. And we've changed or updated or improved a lot of different processes that we do in and around the team, everyday work environment. And what I would say is there's certain things that probably going to go back to old school a little bit. There's some other things that we're going to improve than what we've done in the past. But I still always think it always comes down to the same thing: is the most important thing is the players. And to your point, no doubt when you bring in younger, you go younger, what almost always you get with that is you get desire, hunger, and those are important things to winning games in this league. So that from that perspective, I'm very excited. I would say the staff is very excited, and we know there's more to come. Because of, as Mike said, because of the flexibility we also have within the roster. And mind you, other than a few things here recently, there was a lot of calculated intention for that. There was a reason why there was 18 players that were out of contract this past year, because we knew that this was inevitable, and so now it's about making sure we make good decisions.
So, Peter, with the way you referenced, the team's still a work in progress, the roster's still a work in progress, these first training sessions that you'll go on, what are the big priorities with what you have right now in terms of player development? Is it experimenting with how they look? Like what are you looking to accomplish now while you're waiting to get those other pieces added?
I don't think that changes all that much whether you have your team from last year or not, because you've heard me say this before. There was a year where we brought the exact same team back from that last year to the next year. And no matter how you look at it, it's the same results didn't happen. It was a different journey through the course of that season. And so and also different things happen that challenge you over the course of that season. So again, when you go into preseason, for us, It's concepts, right? For sure. When you have the ball, when you don't have the ball, which is defense, offense, transitional moments between those two, offense to defense, defense to offense, and then set pieces. There are some things that we have to, within the group, evaluate to like an example, set pieces. Who's gonna be the server of the ball maybe on a regular basis? Are we gonna have a person from the right side and the left side different? There's little things like that we'll do. But I would say objectively, majority of our years where we have been in the playoffs, one of the biggest reasons why is because we've always been, top 3 in goals against. And we got to get back to being a really, really tough team to play against defensively. And then I would say, look, everybody, it's the hardest thing to do in this game is to score goals. At times, I'd like to see us be, I think the question was, we've been a possession-oriented team. Everybody gets caught up in possession from that point of view, but and I'll do it, I'll describe when we talk about possession in this club, we talk about it in a manner in which you possess the ball to be able to create as many high-quality chances as you possibly can. The objective is not to just get more passes than the other team in the game. For sure, in the season of our league, from now all the way through the summer and then into the fall, those summer months, it's good to be able to keep the ball, because if you're not, you're defending, and in those dog days of summer, it can really be taxing and it could really hurt you. So having the ability to do that, but make no mistake about it, if we have the ability, I want to be able to go to the goal really, really quickly. And these are things that we have to build with the group, but I'd like to think with some of the people that we're looking at, they have those qualities, and they could be a big assistance. But also remember, when they come in the first day, they also have an adaptation period as well. But I'm fully confident in how we are looking to build the team as we move forward. I'm fully confident in the kind of players that we're looking at, and we will do what we have to do on the coaching side to make sure whoever is available starting tomorrow, that we'll build those guys up at least to be incredibly intense and ready to execute on game nights. And hopefully that execution will lead to some good results.
So you referenced coaching again. To bring it back to that point, you mentioned that there's some specific things you're looking for to fill that role that Z has vacated. I know you've talked a lot about how you're constantly looking to evolve as a coach during your time. It seems like there's all this attention placed on assistant coaches with teams now that are either set piece specialists or analytics specialists. Are there any things like that you're specifically looking for, or do you mind sharing what some of the things you're really looking to add with this position?
I'm not worried about the set pieces from the perspective that we'll be able to deal with that internally, and we've already kind of made that adjustment. I wouldn't share the rest of the criteria because, there's a lot of reasons why, and you probably could figure out most of them. But what I would say is that if there's one thing from my perspective, right, being the head coach, if I only had the opportunity to be incredibly myopic in training to only deal with one aspect of the game, then I think it's hard for me to be able to then interject. So like an example would be if you took, you got 10 players on the field and a goalkeeper. So goalkeeper coach is working with the goalkeepers. You got 10 players. If the front 5 and the back 5, if they're working with 2 separate coaches and I'm one of them on a regular basis, that's probably not an efficient way to do it. And I don't want to do it that way, and I didn't have to do it that way, and I don't want to do it that way. So I'll have to find somebody that can stand on their own, has good field experience. Those are things that I would show you. Has good field experience, can command the group. Right? They get up in front of them, and they got the attention, and they can get attention if they need to as well. Like strong personality. It's not unlike what I like in players. I love players that have strong personalities. And the reason being is because I think strong personalities bend, they don't break. And in this profession, in their profession, no matter how you look at it, it's pressure. And if you're doing well, the pressure gets more and more and more. And because you're playing in big games, and you're getting to those areas where everybody has expectations, and you have to be able to handle those situations. I need the same thing from coaching staff too, because I also like it when we go into a room. As I said earlier, I like it when ideas are challenged. Sometimes they challenge the idea just to challenge it to see how the person actually, how much they believe in it. But you got to be able to stand up for it. And so that's always it's always been a great thing within our staff. But for sure, got to get someone like that that has some of those criteria. There's more I won't share.
This question's in regard to the signing of Jacob Bartlett in particular. What qualities did you see in him that led you to project that he would be a first-team guy down the road?
Okay. So, Jacob being from here, has been in the program for a long time. Probably one of the more mature players that we've had over the years. I would include Busio in that world, because Busio's story is well documented in that when he was like 12, he was telling his mom and dad, like, here's the 5 places that I'd like to go interview them and then find their club I'd like to go to. Jacob is a very mature kid. Great aptitude, very coachable. Very coachable. Learns very quickly as well. It's one thing to be coachable, but it's also being able to take what they learn and apply it as well. And the positions, and I'd say 1 and 2, defensive midfielder, then he could also play as a central defender if need be. But his number 1, we've had some good ones over the years in this team, but also in the United States playing that position, and it's evolved. But he has incredible potential to get there. Great competitiveness. Whenever we're looking at the homegrown players, one of the big things for us is that, people will look at them at the academy level, and they'll make decisions from there. For us, or for me and our staff, it's always when they come up and train with us, and we have those players train with us for reasons. They earn it, not because we're just going to bring them up. They earn the opportunity to come up and train with the team, especially when we need players. And what you want to see is that maybe after the first time, because I've seen this in different situations, whether it be academy players or trialists. Sometimes what happens is you bring a guy in, and because he's so excited, he plays out of his mind, and then you make a decision, and all of a sudden he gets on the team, and you're like, where's the guy we signed? He's gone. He can't keep up with it on a consistent level. And then the other is that some guys come up and they're incredibly intimidated, but once they get there a few times, now all of a sudden you start to see the real them. And we've seen him over a long time, and especially him. And the way he's handled himself within the first team, like I said, the maturity is fantastic. I used Jake Davis as an example. I would say that, and I don't say this to I'm not patting myself on the back. I'm just giving you this story because I think it's an important one. When Jake came into the club and he was in the academy, I don't think that Jake performed all that well when he first got. Actually, when he first got, he was injured, and he was trying to get better. And then he got into the team and he was trying to get back to form. And all of a sudden, and he really wasn't playing that well. And all of a sudden, like in the last 6 months, he really started to play well. And we made a decision. Now, he had come up and trained with the first team many a times, but we had made a decision to sign him to the second team. And I would say there are staff members, not just first team, second team, and even academy, thought, I'm not sure if we should have done that. But sometimes what you see is that it's not necessarily just the quality of the soccer player. It's, do they have the personality for this profession, because it's not an easy profession. It sounds great to everybody because everybody looks at how much money the guy makes and he's playing in front of it. But there's so many ups and downs to it. You got to have, the wherewithal to stick through it, to be able to go through the ups and downs. And the one thing about Jake, you could see every time he came to the team, was that it didn't matter. Like if he came and he made a mistake, he came back the next day and he was all over it again. It didn't matter what the guy said to him, like he was there. And so I think that what has kept him within the first team is that, and now the soccer is catching up to it because he can sustain those ups and downs based on his personality. What I would say about Jacob is that because of his maturity, and he's a really, really intelligent kid, I think he has an incredible aptitude to understand that it's not going to all be great, but he understands that there's going to be ups and downs, and he's one of those kids that's willing to work through it with intelligence. And I think that's going to bode really well for him and us as we move forward. But there's no doubt that he has a big upside. I just hope that we can realize it together.
Peter Omar para la Positiva Radio. El último partido contra el Inter de Miami fue buenísimo. Felicidades. Fue buenísimo ese partido. Felicidades también por darle la oportunidad a las nuevas generaciones en el Sporting. Sin Tim Melia, sin Alan Pulido y sin Johnny Russell, ¿va a ser más difícil enfrentar al Inter de Miami o hay que sacarle beneficio al clima? Gracias.
Es una pregunta difícil porque no sé, cuando nosotros pensamos de este partido, puede ser 3 jugadores tienen lesionado, no juega. Es muy difícil para mí de responder para eso, pero yo le he dicho como así. Este es una nueva periodo para nosotros y yo creo que es una temporada tiene mucho éxito y bueno, yo creo que nosotros tenemos un equipo es más joven, tiene más hombre y nosotros sí, muy feliz con este grupo y sigue y vamos adelante con ellos. Gracias. I was hoping we didn't have to do any of those.
I was going to say final. We have to wrap it up. 2 more? All right. Final 2 questions, Robert and Chad.
Peter, you were talking about Jake earlier, and arguably Jake and Erik Thommy are, you could consider the face of the franchise right now, faces, if you will. So let's talk a little bit more about Jake. What do you see his next step is to get to that next level, which, obviously will help the club, but maybe also get him some more opportunities with the national team?
I think first and foremost is consistency, whether it's the individual player or the team, which you're always trying to achieve as a group, as an individual, is consistency in your form and your level of play. And then the other is, I think one of Jake's major strengths, and it's for all of us, sometimes our strength can sometimes be our weakness. He has great intensity and aggressiveness, but sometimes too many yellow cards and silly ones. And those things have to change in that regard, more discipline in those situations. But definitely on the other side of that strength can be very infectious for the other players in the team, which, as I said, we want to be more intense and we need more guys to do that. And he could be a great example of that. And hopefully other guys will understand how important that is, because it really, in this league, it can be a huge result getter for sure.
And then, Mike, for you, when we first met you, you talked about making additions to the staff, an assistant sporting director, scouts, analytics. Can you kind of give us an update on where that's at?
Yeah, it's a good question.
It's a great question.
It is a good question. I didn't. There's so much on the player front that I didn't forget. Believe me, but I didn't address it. There's been a lot of moving parts within this organization off the field as well. We have hired a domestic scout. Have we announced that yet? Oh, sorry. We have hired a domestic scout. We are in the final stages of SKC2 head coach. We should be able to announce that in the next week or so, 2 weeks max. We're
Made an offer.
We made an. We'll. That's
close.
That's very close. Assistant sporting director, we are still interviewing for that. And similar to what Peter said, I'm not going to repeat the whole thing, similar to what he said about Z, is how we feel about the assistant sporting director, or at least how I feel about the assistant sporting director role. I've been blown away with the amount of resumes and applications. We have been inundated, and I've spent more time than I ever dreamed of on the interview process. It's a good thing. There's so many people that are interested, and so many more qualified people than there were years ago because of the involvement of the league. So we're getting there on all fronts. We're there on a couple fronts, but we still have work to do there. But it's been good work, and like I said, we've hired a domestic scout. We're close to the SKC2. I think hopefully in the next 30 days we'll have an assistant sporting director on board, and we haven't really even got to the point. There's been so many moving parts with those positions as well as the player front. We will also be adding international scouts, and frankly, we just haven't gotten there yet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, guys, we have Jacob Bartlett with us, who we signed as a homegrown player earlier this week. Jake just played his freshman season at Notre Dame after leaving our academy, where he spent, God, how long?
8 years.
8 years. So happy to have him back, and he's ready for questions. So give it a thad.
I guess just tell me what went through your mind when they made the offer for you to sign the homegrown contract.
Yeah, it was definitely Peter brought my family into his office, and to be honest, my mom started to tear up because it was like, you think about it, I come here, luckily my family's season ticket members, and we've been coming to games since I was as long as I can remember, like 8 or 9. And coming to these games, you look up to these guys like as idols growing up. You wish you could be like them one day. And to actually being offered a contract like that was, everything came full circle. It was like almost brought you to tears because like you work so hard for something, for it to pay off is I was extremely grateful. So.
It's just got to be cool knowing that you're going to be playing in your hometown.
Yeah, it was, when I got to tell my buddies and some family friends, that was just to see their reactions and kind of how much they care about me and how much they want to support me is pretty cool.
And I know Peter told us what he thought maybe your best position was, but can you tell me? Because I've seen you play several different spots.
I've kind of played midfield defender as well. I think I've grown into the midfield spot the most. I don't mind really playing anywhere. I'll play anywhere on the field, to be honest. But I enjoy midfield the most, for sure.
There's been a lot of homegrowns signed here recently, but being from Kansas City, I guess, what does that mean to you to kind of be representing your home team and being able to do that with the first team?
Yeah, it means the world. Obviously, playing for Sporting Valley before joining Academy, being around kind of the hometown club and getting the opportunity to play with second team and first team, being able to represent, wearing the badge, representing not just me, my family, and my friends, and most importantly, the club, means the world to represent my home state. So yeah.
And you come from a family of a lot of soccer players. So you said your mom teared up when you signed the contract, or when you were offered the contract, signed the contract. But what do you think made it different about this one than your family all being soccer players?
I think the sacrifices they made, the drives down to Swope during the academy, I can't thank them enough. They've sacrificed so much throughout my childhood, and while as a teenager, like I wouldn't be where I am without them. And to see it all pay off, I think that was once again like full circle moment for her. So.
When you were a little kid going to the games, who were some of your favorite players?
We've been family friends with the Beaslers, so I would say Matt has been one of the nicest guys I've ever met, and obviously the Notre Dame connection as well. I got to see him out there as well. He's just someone you always looked up to. He's played in the World Cup, national team for so many years. I think he's just a perfect character on the field and off. So. Yeah.
Peter referenced Jake Davis when he was talking about you, talked a little bit about the engine and the fight that you bring to the table. What role has Jake Davis played, if any, in your development? What's your relationship like with him?
I think he's been great. He's for sure a mentor of mine. Growing up in the academy, you see him play the academy and then move second team to first team. It was pretty cool to see. And then obviously having the opportunity to do the same pathway, I guess, as him. Move to the second team and practice with the first team in preseason, such as. It was amazing. Like, he's been, if there's anything I need, whether it be on the field or off, he's given me tips, whether position-wise, tactically, anything off that. And then obviously off the field, like, kind of getting to know the guys, building relationships with them. He's been great.
And how big of a Notre Dame football fan are you? And what's your anticipation like for this national championship game? What are your plans?
I was actually in Miami for the rookie conference, and coming back, we were on the plane, but I was able to watch it, and I was like shaking in my seat the whole time. It was awesome. Going to the games while I was there was that stadium, the atmosphere was ridiculous. And getting to watch the national championship, I'll be excited for it.
Jacob, I know you went to Notre Dame, but I didn't see on the bio. Were you homeschooled, or did you go to high school? Or?
Yes, I went to St. Thomas Aquinas High School.
Okay.
All 4 years. It was tough for preseason and stuff, but the teachers, staff at Aquinas were amazing. They were able to make it work for me to kind of miss half days and miss, I guess, school for long periods of time. They were great about it. I can't thank them enough as well.
And how would you look back on maintaining the balance of your social life, playing soccer, and everything that was involved with where you are now?
Yeah, I think at that part of my life, I fell more to my family and support. My parents were amazing, as well as my brother. Brother and sisters. They went through similar situations. Obviously, going to multiple colleges, like. You're meeting new people, starting a new life in a different place. I think they helped me adapt to. Definitely, I didn't have the normal high school experience, but I think just having that support system around me helped me adapt to. It's for a greater purpose. I'm sacrificing these things so I could be in this position, and I'm extremely grateful that I have the opportunity to do it.
And Jacob, you're the first player to graduate from the Center of Excellence, I believe it's called,
yes.
all the way up. So from like under 12 to the first team. What does that mean to you?
It's to think about that. The first time I went, it was my dad's idea actually. Just to think how that process started from there when I was just a kid all the way here. It's a dream come true, to be honest. I can't thank the sporting coaching staff. Declan was the first coach I met at the academy, and for him to be sporting director after all these years, I'm incredibly grateful to him, and I owe him the world, to be honest, and I'm extremely happy for him.
And so we talk about homegrown players a lot, but a lot of times the homegrowns aren't actually from home, right?
Yeah.
Davis is from Michigan and Buzio, North Carolina, and on and on. You're the first one since 2019 to actually be from Kansas City. Does it make it extra special knowing like your siblings signed at other clubs, not Sporting KC?
Absolutely. I think it's an incredible blessing, and I wouldn't change it for the world. Like Kansas, I guess this club has given me everything, and to be able to work, starting from now, work as hard as I can and give everything back to it since they've given me everything.
Great. Thank you so much, Jacob. And congratulations.
Thank you, guys.
All right, Jake Davis. We'll start with Thad. Here we go.
Hello.
We just talked about having a little off time. How key was it to get some off time there from last year and to get ready to start a new year?
It was good. I don't think key is the right word. I think some off time is nice to just reset mentally and physically, but obviously didn't make the playoffs, so we all had some extra time. But I guess for me, I think at the end of December, I was kind of itching to get back. It's nice. It is really nice being with family. I'm not saying I got sick of them, but I missed the game. I missed training. I missed being around everybody and working towards something. And I'm really happy to be back.
Jacob had some nice words about you. What can you say about him?
Did he? Yeah. Wow. I'd say, no, he's a good kid. He came to preseason last year, and, he was around us during the season. I think he's a humble kid, keeps his head down, works hard every training. Obviously, I haven't played in a game with him. He was doing his thing last year, but it seems like he's got a good attitude and like the right mentality for a club like ours. So I'm really happy to see how he does, and I'm excited for him.
With him coming in and the other homegrowns that they've signed recently, or that you guys have signed recently, have you seen your role kind of shifting from being one of the younger guys to a bit more of a leader?
Well, I did just turn 23, so yeah. Yeah, I can feel – I don't feel older, but I get what you're asking. I feel like, especially because there's now younger kids around, like kids that are very much younger than I am, it's interesting. It's a different perspective for myself. I was those kids, like, at one point. So I think it's special to see, but I guess, yeah, I do look at myself in a different role and trying to be more, influential and, trying to set an example on the field and off the field. And, I don't feel like I need to try anything different. I just feel like just being myself and having good intentions towards helping them in their careers. And, I think you can go a different route. I don't want to ever make someone feel small or like they're not experienced. I'm just, they're part of the team now, and that's how they're going to be treated.
And as you start to look forward to this next season, preseason coming up, what are you focused on for yourself personally? Like day one, what are you focused on?
I always give you guys this answer, but it's the same as always for me. I'm just looking to get better. And obviously, I've had good moments in the past couple of years, and, it's nice to reflect and enjoy those. But I feel like I'm always looking for the next thing. And that just means for me, the first training in Miami is how do I get better that training session. And for the rest of preseason, it's always try to get a little bit more fit, get a little bit better, 1% every day. And I think if I keep that attitude through the rest of the year, through the rest of my career, I think, it'll shoot me in a trajectory that I'm going to be getting better.
The team's going to look a lot different going into this year. A lot of players that were around for a lot of years and leaders are no longer with the team. Just how different is that going to feel when you step out there?
Yeah, of course it's obviously those guys who are not with us now had a big impact on the club during their time here, but I think this is just part of the business, and I don't have a bad word to say about anybody. I'm grateful for the impact they had on our team and the impact that they had on me. But it's going to be different. I mean, that's the obvious. Everyone in this room knows that. Different players are on the field now. And, that's nothing against the guys that aren't here anymore. And I think that's just something we're going to have to see in preseason. And, different leaders step up and different players playing. And that's the truth of it.
You've taken a heck of a journey in a fairly short period of time, too. Thinking about you all of a sudden playing right back and establishing yourself there, and then being back in the midfield and establishing yourself there. When you look at somebody that's 19 like Jacob, who knows what his journey is going to be like, but does it I don't know, what's your reaction when you think back to like just how fast things have happened, or do you feel like they've happened fast for you in that regard?
I feel like for myself, I don't know if that's a good way to put it. Things can change quickly. That's how I look at it. I don't think I felt that things happened fast for me. I think for a long time, even when I wasn't signed yet, even the year before I signed, I always just wanted more. I always wanted to get better. I always wanted a different opportunity. I just was hungry for that. And I think that's why I didn't feel like it happened fast. I was always working, and if I wasn't training with the first team, I was really in the moment of just trying to be better. And the way I'd put it is things can change quickly. So the year I started playing right back, the months before that, if you had interviewed me then, I might have been frustrated. I might have been, still determined, but I've been in this position for a long time now. I'm looking for an opportunity. So, things can change quickly. And for guys like Jacob and, obviously our other two homegrown signings are younger, but I think when I hear that, it's just these guys got to do a really good job of just, not, this is their job now. To put it bluntly, like they gotta work, and the good thing is those guys know how to work. But, if things don't go right away, if they're not on the starting team the first game against Inter Miami, it's normal, and if they are, they got to be prepared. So I think what rings a bell for me is just always staying prepared and always trying your hardest to stay ready. And for me, that took a couple years, and for them, who knows? But if I could give them advice, that would probably be it. Just stay ready, stay hungry.
You just said a phrase that makes my eyes open a little bit when you say that first game against Inter Miami.
Yeah.
I know you're already listed that or expressed that you're excited just to be back, but is there any extra sense of focus or excitement or anything when our first game is against that team?
Yeah, of course. I'm a soccer junkie. We don't know who's going to play in that game for them, though, and obviously what we can control right now is, when we leave tomorrow and train in Miami. And, of course, if I'm going to talk to you, for real, it's an exciting moment. It's a big game. And when I was watching the draw and I saw that, I was excited. And so, but, we're back now and I kind of have to dial it in. We got to be ready for that game and take the emotion and the experience out of it. That's another team we're going to play, and we got to be ready for it. And when that series is done, then you can reflect and say, "Oh, this was a cool moment." But for right now, this is our first game, and we got to focus on doing our best to be prepared to win it.
So, Jake, you and Erik are going to talk to us today, and I don't know about you, but I see something in that. Why are you being chose to put in front of us on the first day of preseason? And there's an open for the captain spot. I think last year, 27-year-old was the youngest, so obviously you'd be a little younger than that. Is that something that you aspire to try to be for this team?
Yeah, of course. This is my boyhood club. I think anybody that's been at a club longer than 5 years that's something they think about. But, walking in here, doing this press conference with you, I don't assume, and I'm not, it hasn't been on my mind, and I am doing my best, as you asked, to just, have a different kind of role and have a different perspective of, I've been on this team for a certain amount of years now, and, I'm not a kid now. I'm a player. I'm a older player now. And so when you ask a question like that, it's a good question. I just think that that's not the first thing that comes to my mind. I'm just trying to do my best right now to be a good teammate, be a good player, and, if the club decides that that's what I'm fit for, then I'm very happy, and, I'll do the best I can to be captain. But for right now, all I'm worried about is just being a good teammate to my teammates and a good player that's going to represent this club and do his best to take it back where we belong.
And Peter talked about things he's looking for from you this year. Maybe some yellow cards that he would like to not see committed.
Yeah, good start.
What are you doing to address those things going into 2025?
Well, as you said, it's perfect that you asked that. Just addressing it, just making it known that last year I was suspended one too many times because of yellow cards, and I honestly I thought there was some positive growth from my own end of not doing that, but you got to take a look in the mirror, and that was a problem for me last year, and I'm not afraid to admit that. But yeah, as you said, this is something that I need to work on, and I think it's just more about finding moments, finding plays, and watching film of when these things happen, and trying my best effort to recognize that in game or in practice, and not doing it. So obviously, it's soccer. Everyone's going to get a yellow card, and so if the first game against Inter Miami I get a yellow card, it doesn't mean I have a problem still. Maybe there was a play, but it's more about recognizing it and actually having purpose towards what I'm trying to get better at, and so that's how I'll be better.
Jake, I know your emphasis is on sporting, but I'm wondering how much does the possibility of eventually, sooner rather than later, getting a cap for the U.S. team enter your mind?
Obviously, I'm an American kid. It's something that American kids dream of, but I did go to the Olympics, and that was a proud moment for me. But to be honest with you, I haven't been involved like with U.S. men's national team or U.S. youth national team very much. So from a young age, I've gotten used to not thinking about that. As I said, I'm just focused on being a good player for Sporting, and I think at the end of the day, if I focus on that, good opportunities will come. But I don't leave after practice. I don't leave after a game thinking, oh, did someone, it's just I'm worried about Sporting, and that's it.
Anybody else? Thank you very much, Jake.
Thank you.
Joined now by Erik Thommy. Everyone in the back good? All right. Thad, take it away.
Did you get some much-needed time off? What'd you do?
It was not enough. I'm joking. Yeah, it was good. I went back home to my family, enjoyed the time over there, but time flew like crazy, to be honest. But it was a nice time out for sure, yeah.
We putting the last year behind, but we know it was a little difficult here. Looking forward, it's going to be a much different team. Just what do you see? What's the expectations?
Right now, I think it's clear that our roster is not complete. So I think some players will come in, but we had some tests the last 2 days, and we will go to Miami tomorrow. So we need to prepare ourselves. I mean, there are no expectations right now. I think we know that we have to be better than last season. That's for sure. And we have to work out our plan, talk about everything, and then look forward and create some new plans to be prepared for the season. But I think we have enough time. 6 weeks it's a lot of time for us, and we have to use them and get ready for it.
Like looking at statistically, you are one of the leaders on this team. But I guess from more of a personal perspective, do you kind of see yourself as a leader on this team?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just look at the roster. I think I'm one of the oldest right now. We have also like a change of generation. You can see the last 2 years when we talk about players in the past, like Zeus, Rog, Johnny, Fonte, they're all gone. So, and I think, I'm absolutely. And it's good because, I think I like to be a leader. And I want to teach also the young guys to look forward and to do the right things, because when I was in their age, I knew that I didn't know everything what I need to do at the right moment, and I'm always there to help. I'm also there to be a big role on the pitch.
And when you say you're there to help, what are the ways that you like to kind of be a leader?
I think it's all about details. It's starting with the right sleep, ending up with exercises on the pitch, doing the right things at the right time. For some players, they have to do more. Some players, they have to do maybe less. And like I said, always details and the right recovery, the right focus, the right mindset, because the season is long. It's 11 months. Maybe a little bit more or less, depends on us. And you have to be prepared for the entire time.
Knowing that Inter Miami is the first match that's on the schedule, do you think that gives any extra sense of focus or purpose with a big marquee matchup like that right on the horizon that you have to get ready for?
I think the focus will be the same, but obviously it's a great game. It's a big game for us. I think we start at home, right? So, it's going to be good. It's going to be good, but still, like I said, we have to start from zero on, build our strategy, and need the right identity, because we have also some changes in our team. And, we are all excited, but it's still a long way to go.
We got to speak with Jake Davis a little while ago, and he has obviously developed a lot over the last couple of years, and you've seen that. You've witnessed it as a part of the team with him. And assuming he plays in the midfield again this year, you guys could be playing together as well. I'm just curious what you've seen in his evolution as a leader and as a player, and what do you think he's capable of bringing to the team this year?
I think he showed it the last, I would say, 18 months. It was also a process with him. I think he came out of the academy. He had to compete. It's totally different to play with the academy or with the first team, and he adapted really quick. And now he plays a big role in our team, and it's great to see. Just hope he stays healthy and can help us like last season. And it doesn't matter where he plays, even if he plays as a right back or in the midfield, he's gonna be important for us. And yeah, I think you can see Jake also like a ensemble because I've talked about the young players. He adapted really quick, and it was a kind of education he got the last 2 years, and that's what we need also for the other players. And they will get the time, but they will need to use it right. And hopefully Jake stays fit and can help us throughout the season.
And Erik, you talked about your leadership. There's an opening for the captaincy of the team. Is that something that you see yourself trying to attain?
It's always up to the coach. I mean, I'm there if they need me, and of course, if I'm gonna be the captain, I will take it for sure. But at the end, it's always the most important thing is always to be there in every training session, to stay fit, and to be prepared for the first games. Like I said, it's up to the coach at the end.
And then Mike Burns was here earlier talking about signing a number 10, a designated player, attacking midfielder. I would say nominally that's been you for at least this last season. Where else do you see yourself playing on the field if a signing like that were to move you around? I know you've played wing, false nine, things like that.
First of all, I would be happy if we get some players in, because I think we need them to compete in the season as well. And it doesn't matter what kind of player is coming. I think I'm a player who can play almost every position up in front, even in the midfield. So we'll see. We have to move things around and see what's the right formation for us this year. But because our players changed, so our formation will change. And I'm pretty positive, and I'm also excited what happens next. And I'm gonna be ready. It doesn't matter where on the pitch.
So Erik, obviously in your career, you've had winning times here. You have winning times in your career otherwise. So you're aware of what it takes to be there. Is there an ingredient that you'd really like to see the club get back that maybe had lost, or maybe needs to be a bigger focus this year to really get back to that winning trend?
There are a lot of things what you need to be successful. It's not only a small piece. It's like a lot of small pieces collected together, and then you have like a big piece at the end. Just let's look back at our last season. Something you need to have all the time is like I would say the obsession of winning, like to go on the pitch and you need to win, or you will win. I think something like that missed a little bit last season. We had games throughout the season, especially when I take a look at the Open Cup, US Open Cup. I think we were prepared. We were willing to win games. Unfortunately, we lost the final, but something like that was missing throughout the game, in like the regular season games. That's a small piece, for example, and we can talk about a lot of things. And I always talk, since I'm sitting here, I always talk about details, starting with yourselves and then collectively. It's difficult to answer your question, to be honest, but hopefully you understand what I mean. And I think we need to see to take the details, how I can say, like to work more on the details like we did in the past, even if it's like collectively on the pitch, formation stuff, offensive-wise, defensively, and also like what happens off the pitch, because some things are also big topics, and you take it into the games, and that's something we cannot have this season, because we need to improve. And I think Sporting Kansas City is a big club who needs to be successful again.